Hope's world had never been more unsteady. She stood in front of the mirror, her hands trembling as she held the pregnancy test. 2 lines. Faint, but there. Her heart pounded against her ribs as the truth settled over her like a wave crashing on stone. She was pregnant, and not just with one baby. Twins. The doctor had confirmed it that morning. Hope Logan, always caught between the men in her life, now found herself more entangled than ever. She was stuck in a storm. Torn between the safe, familiar pull of Liam Spencer and the deep, passionate connection she'd begun to feel with Carter Walton. But this wasn't just about love anymore. This was about the future, about children, about truth, about consequences. The timing was cruel. Her relationship with Liam had been fractured for months. The trust between them, once solid, had turned to dust in their hands. Carter, on the other hand, had been a breath of fresh air, loyal, grounded, stable. Hope hadn't expected to fall so quickly for him, but she had. And now, with the pregnancy confirmed and the paternity test pointing toward Carter as the father, she made her decision. She would move forward with him. It was the right thing to do. Still, her heart ached with lingering feelings for Liam. She couldn't deny the history they shared, the good, the bad, all the complicated in-betweens. Letting go of that kind of bond doesn't happen overnight, but the facts were staring her in the face, and she was determined to do what was best for her babies. She would marry Carter. He deserved to know his children. They deserved a stable family. The wedding was arranged quickly. Elegant, intimate, with family gathered in anticipation. Brooke stood beside Hope, watching her daughter's every move with cautious optimism. Ridge exchanged tight nods with Carter, still unsure how to feel. Even Steffi kept her distance, eyes flickering with uncertainty. But nothing could have prepared them for what happened next. As the music began and Hope stepped into the chapel, dressed in ivory silk and holding her breath, the doors burst open, gasps rippled through the crowd. Thomas Forrester stormed in, eyes blazing, jaw clenched, voice cutting through the room like a blade. "The baby is mine." The room froze. Hope felt her knees buckle. The air left her lungs in a rush. Her bouquet slipped from her hand and hit the floor. "What?" she whispered. Thomas moved closer, unapologetic, defiant. "Those babies you're carrying, they're mine, Hope. You know it. You remember that night. We were together. You and me." A tidal wave of memory crashed over her. The night she had buried her pain in a bottle of wine. The night she'd called Thomas. The night they'd both promised not to speak of again. "No," Hope said, barely audible. We swore to keep a lie," Thomas snapped. "But I can't stand here and watch you marry Carter when those children might be mine. You owe me, and them, the truth." Carter looked between them, betrayal creeping into his eyes. Liam stood in the back, stunned, watching the entire train wreck unfold. Brooke stepped forward, eyes wide. "Is this true, Hope?" Hope could barely breathe. "It was one night. A mistake. We agreed it meant nothing." "Nothing?" Thomas growled. "It meant everything. You're carrying twins. We both know what's possible." The whispers in the chapel turned into low murmurs. Then full-blown chaos. Steffi stared at her brother in disbelief. Ridge tried to take control, but no one was listening. Hope collapsed into a chair, head in her hands. The next day, the headlines exploded across tabloids and fashion blogs alike. Hope Logan's wedding crumbles amid paternity bombshell. The only way to settle the matter was another DNA test. One that included Thomas this time. The results would take days, but the fallout was instant. Carter moved out. Liam demanded answers. And Thomas, ever the wildcard, refused to back down. He visited Hope at home, calmer now, but no less insistent. "I'm not trying to destroy your life, Hope. But I won't be cut out of mine if those children are mine." "I won't." Hope, exhausted and drained, didn't answer. She was staring at the ultrasound photo, 2 tiny shapes already defining her world. She didn't know how to feel. She didn't know who to trust. The line between truth and secrets had blurred beyond recognition. When the results finally came in, the room was silent. Ridge, Brooke, Steffi, Carter, Liam, and Thomas all sat tensely in the Forrester living room. Hope opened the envelope with shaking fingers. Her mouth went dry. She looked up. "It's Thomas." Dead silence. Then, Thomas let out a slow breath, his eyes flickering with something between vindication and disbelief. "I knew it," he said softly. Carter stood up and left the room without a word. Liam stared down at the floor, jaw tight. Brooke reached for Hope, but she recoiled, overwhelmed. She didn't speak. She couldn't, because the truth had landed like a wrecking ball, devastating, unstoppable, and permanent. Now, everything had changed. Hope Logan was carrying Thomas Forrester's twins. And the real story was just beginning. DNA split, the shocking truth behind Hope's twins. No one expected the call from the hospital to shake the ground beneath them. Not after the dust had barely settled from the ruined wedding. The paternity showdown. And the storm Thomas had kicked open by crashing Hope's ceremony with his bombshell claim. But the call came anyway, and it changed everything. Hope sat frozen in Dr. Silva's office, Carter by her side, Thomas pacing in the hallway like a shadow. She was already bracing herself for results, for confirmation or closure. What she wasn't bracing for was the doctor's words. "There's an anomaly, drive," Silva had said carefully, scanning the file. "It's extremely rare, but in this case, we have what's known as heteropaternal superfecundation. Your twins have different fathers." Hope blinked, staring at the woman like she had spoken in code. "What are you saying?" "Each twin comes from a different egg fertilized by sperm from a different father. One child matches Carter genetically. The other doesn't match Carter or Liam." Carter leaned back in his chair, stunned. "Then who?" "Doctor." Silva glanced toward the hallway. "We need more testing." Hope didn't have to ask. She already knew. It was Thomas. The night she tried to forget. The night they both swore never happened. The night that had already shattered her wedding. It had left something behind. Now it had a heartbeat. Within hours, Thomas submitted his DNA quietly. No press. No family. Just him and the nurse, grim and quiet. And when the results came back, the second twin matched Thomas Forrester. Hope didn't cry. She just sat there, letting the truth settle like lead in her lungs. Carter was the father of one child. Thomas was the father of the other. Two babies. Two fathers. One impossible future. News spread like wildfire. Brooke was the first to explode. "He planned this," she snapped, storming into Ridge's office. "Don't you see it, Ridge? He took advantage of her in a vulnerable moment and now he gets to claim her child?" "He didn't plan this," Ridge argued, unsure of his own words. "You think he orchestrated a 1 in a million biological anomaly just to get close to Hope? Would you put it past him?" Brooke shouted. Steffi was no less shaken. She confronted Thomas at Forrester Creations, eyes burning. "What exactly is your endgame here, Thomas? You want to raise a child with Hope? You think she'll come running into your arms because fate rolled the dice?" "I didn't ask for this," Thomas snapped back. "I just want to be a father to my child." Carter, meanwhile, was spiraling. At first, he tried to hold steady, telling Hope they could handle this. They'd raise both children together. They'd figure it out. But each time he looked into Hope's eyes, he saw guilt. Not love. Not peace. Just guilt. And Liam was hollow. Watching from the sidelines, helpless and humiliated once again. Hope hadn't cheated, technically. But in his eyes, it didn't matter. She'd shared her body and now carried another man's child. Two of them, in fact. And neither one was his. "You always run back to him," Liam muttered the night he showed up at her house uninvited. "Doesn't matter what he does. Doesn't matter what promises we made. You still end up in Thomas's orbit. Now you're raising his child. With Carter." "I didn't choose this," Hope said, her voice cracking. "You think I wanted this chaos? I think you didn't stop it." But the real twist hadn't surfaced yet. 1 week later, the lab director at the hospital received a flagged alert. Their system had registered a back-end edit. A metadata shift in the DNA file for the second twin. A correction had been made. Unauthorized. Quiet. Traced to an anonymous account using encrypted access. The technician immediately raised a red flag. The system automatically archived every version of test results, even the altered ones. A comparison revealed something staggering. The original test had not matched Thomas. It had been inconclusive. The updated one, the one everyone saw, confirmed him as the father. Within hours, an internal investigation launched. Emails combed. Logins analyzed. But the account used had been masked professionally. This wasn't some hacker off the street. This was someone with motive. Someone with access. Someone with a stake. Hope was called back in. Another blood draw. Another test. This time, under full observation. And the results? Inconclusive, again. The lab director handed her the envelope personally. "This test is clean," she said. "There's no way to know who the second father is. Not yet. Not unless we retest every possible candidate." Hope's hands shook as she clutched the paper. "So Thomas may not be the father," the director said. "The original results were tampered with." Carter stood behind her. Why would anyone do that? The answer came fast, ugly, and undeniable. To claim paternity. To get Hope back. To lock in a connection. All eyes turned to Thomas again. Ridge, caught in the middle, confronted his son. "Did you alter those results?" Thomas stared at him, wounded. "No, I swear. I gave my sample. I waited for the results like everyone else." "But someone did," Ridge said. "And you had the most to gain." Thomas refused to back down. "I didn't do this. But I am that child's father. I know it." Brooke wasn't buying it. You're obsessed. You've always been obsessed. And now you're trying to rewrite biology to make your obsession permanent. Hope, crushed under the weight of it all, didn't know what to believe. One moment she was preparing to marry Carter, build a future. The next, she was a headline. A cautionary tale. A mother caught between lies, loyalties, and genetics. Carter began pulling away. His trust in the system was cracked. His trust in Hope was fading. He started staying at the office later, answering fewer texts, asking fewer questions. Hope confronted him. Are you giving up on me? I'm not giving up, he said. I'm just realizing this isn't what I signed up for. I thought we were building something honest. But everything around us is a lie. Maybe even the truth itself. And then came the final blow. The lab technician who flagged the data breach received a letter. No name. Just a short note and a flash drive. The note read, "Look deeper. The father you're looking for isn't Thomas." It never was. On the drive, security footage from inside the lab, 3 days before the test was finalized. A man in a hoodie. Gloved hands. Accessing the system manually. The technician paused the video. Zoomed in. The man turned briefly toward the camera. It wasn't Thomas. It was Liam. Hope's world tilted again. Tears in court, a legacy on trial. The war moved to the courtroom. What began as a private storm had turned into a legal inferno. The press caught scent of scandal. The Forrester name trended again. But this time, it wasn't about fashion. It was about blood, about babies, about inheritance, and about power. Hope Logan never imagined her pregnancy would land in family court. But here she was, standing on the cold, polished floor of a Los Angeles courthouse, flanked by attorneys, reporters, and rivals, her belly beginning to show beneath a fitted navy dress. She wasn't on trial, not officially. But every eye was on her, every word she said dissected, recorded, twisted. At the heart of the case, the twins she carried. The rare condition had become public knowledge now, heteropaternal superfecundation. 2 eggs. 2 fathers. 1 mother. 1 mess. Carter Walton, father to one of the twins, stood proudly beside Hope. He had refused to bring in an attorney. As a respected lawyer himself, he could have torn apart the opposition. But he made a clear choice. No loopholes, no tricks, no power plays. He would not weaponize the law against the woman he loved. Instead, he demanded full transparency. I'm not here to win, he told the judge. I'm here to protect Hope and my child. And if that means exposing myself to loss, so be it. But I won't be part of a battle that treats my own child like a chess piece. Thomas Forrester didn't share that restraint. He arrived at court with a high-profile attorney known for hardball tactics and psychological warfare. Their strategy was clear from the start. Redefine the conversation, reclaim the narrative, and most importantly, establish paternal rights from the moment of conception. My client, the attorney argued, has a constitutional and emotional right to be present for the prenatal development of his biological child. Shared custody starts now, not after delivery. The courtroom gasped. The judge raised an eyebrow. Hope paled, but the pressure didn't end there. Liam Spencer, Beth's father, Hope's ex-husband, and forever entangled in her life, filed an emergency petition the same morning. He wasn't claiming paternity. He wasn't contesting custody. His motion was different, and far more dangerous. He wanted Beth removed from Hope's primary household until the twins' parentage and custodial structure are stabilized. His lawyer argued, Beth is being raised in a volatile environment where emotional uncertainty, public scandal, and conflicting male influences put her psychological well-being at risk. This isn't about jealousy. This is about protecting a child from chaos. Hope felt the floor tilt. Now she was fighting for 3 children. 1 who already called her mommy, and 2 who hadn't yet been born. The judge ordered immediate measures. A 3-step DNA verification process conducted by a third-party international lab. Monitored psychological assessments of all parties. And court-appointed neutral observers embedded within each household. But that wasn't all. The Forrester family was dragged directly into the line of fire. Ridge Forrester was subpoenaed as a neutral character witness. He stood awkwardly before the court, caught between his son and the woman he now considered a daughter. I've watched Hope raise Beth with more grace than I've seen in most people, he said. She's steady, compassionate, and strong. But I've also seen Thomas change. He's worked hard to be a better man, a better father. I'm not here to pick sides. I'm here to say both of them love their children. And that matters. Brooke Logan, however, was another story. The opposing attorney zeroed in on her long-standing hostility toward Thomas. Ms. Logan, the lawyer snapped. Is it not true that you once lobbied for full custody of Douglas to be taken from Thomas based on your personal judgment of his mental state? I was protecting my daughter, Brooke fired back. Or were you exerting control over the Forrester legacy? Perhaps even steering Hope toward Liam to ensure security, influence, and access to the Spencer fortune? Objection. Sustained. But the damage was done. Brooke's credibility cracked. The judge noted her bias. And just when it seemed the courtroom couldn't get heavier, a new variable detonated, a document, discovered during a routine filing audit in the Forrester estate archive. Stephanie Forrester's original will, long thought to be entirely superseded by later versions. This document had a surviving clause. Never revoked, never contested. It read, in the event of multiple living biological grandchildren of the Forrester bloodline, my direct inheritance, including ownership shares and trust fund allocations, shall pass in full to the firstborn legitimate biological grandchild, provided parentage is verified, and said child is not legally disowned or adopted outside the family. The court went still. A storm of interpretation exploded. The clause meant one thing. The child Hope carried, if confirmed to be Thomas's, could inherit a substantial portion of the Forrester empire, including stock, assets, and real estate designated under Stephanie's legacy provision. The implications rippled instantly. Thomas's camp saw opportunity. Carter's team feared escalation. Hope saw only a future of endless litigation and emotional crossfire. Even Ridge was shaken. He had no idea Stephanie's clause still held legal weight. Now it wasn't just about paternity. It was about power, legacy, dynasty, and money, a lot of it. The court ordered the estate to remain frozen in that section until the DNA results in custody. Matters were resolved. Forrester Creations board started whispering. Eric Forrester, though retired, was furious that his late wife's name was being used to justify a war over unborn children. This isn't what Stephanie wanted, Eric growled during a family meeting. She wanted this family united, not tearing each other apart for bloodlines and contracts. Hope broke down in private that night. She wept alone, curled on the floor of her bedroom, hands over her belly, unsure whether she was protecting her children or endangering them by carrying them into this world. She had once believed love would be enough. Love for Beth, love for Carter, and even, once, a kind of confused love for Thomas. Now all she saw were court orders, frozen assets, and a family legacy that threatened to consume her. Still, she showed up to court every day. She endured the cross-examinations. She sat through psychiatric evaluations. She smiled through supervised visits and tried to keep Beth's life normal, reading bedtime stories while tabloids screamed her name across newsstands. The DNA tests came in one by one. First step, confirmation of twin pregnancy, already known but formally documented. Second step, confirmation of Carter Walton as father to baby A. Third step, forensic analysis of the biological markers for baby B. The court waited. The results arrived under seal. The judge opened the file. Baby B's paternity is inconclusive at this stage, he said. A rare sequencing anomaly is preventing confirmation through conventional testing. Further testing will be ordered. The courtroom buzzed. No one expected that. The Forrester inheritance clause couldn't activate without biological certainty. Thomas looked gutted. Carter, conflicted. Hope, numb. But in the back of the room, a woman stood. A paralegal, previously unnoticed. She raised her hand and stepped forward. Your Honor, if I may, there's another path to proving paternity. There's an unopened tissue sample from Thomas Forrester's emergency surgery 3 years ago. If the court grants access, make the motion, the judge said. Hope stared at the woman. She didn't recognize her. Later, outside the courthouse, the woman was gone. No name, no trace. Just another shadow in a story full of ghosts, secrets, and legacies that refused to stay buried. The war was far from over. But the battlefield had changed. It was no longer about which man Hope would choose. It was about which bloodline would rise, and which truth would survive. Oh.